Everybody, and welcome to our July 2026 astrology forecast. As always, I'm excited to be joined by our brilliant faculty member, Celeste Brooks. Thank you so much for joining us today, and how are we doing?
I am doing great, Callum. How are you?
Wonderful. Celeste, I am a calm and gentle year of the rabbit, so this firehorse year has been relentless, and I can't keep up.
It is a lot galloping, galloping, galloping along. It's hard to, yeah, time just feels like it's accelerating into new gears and it's just going to get faster. So, yeah, how can we
Absolutely.
ground ourselves? That is a question everyone needs to
Well,
think about. What can you do to ground yourself and get a little stabilized before we go into this dynamic month?
that's why I'm so glad you're here today, Celeste, because as we were talking about for the recording, not only is this the most significant month of the year, but arguably one of the most significant months in centuries. That's how much is going on. So, for you, Celeste, before we get into the details of each week, what are your thoughts for July as an overview with so much going on?
Yeah, so July starts, and I mean, it comes in with a bang where there is a full moon in Capricorn on the June 29th, so 2 days before the month. And there's so much action happening on that day so the sun is in Cancer and the moon is in Capricorn. And so we'll definitely be discussing, and there will be things coming to a culmination about Capricorn themes, governments, big business, the elderly, structures. With the sun in Cancer, there's themes of housing, protection, homeland security, water issues could be a big conversation that we're having. And on the same day, Mercury stations retrograde in the sign of Cancer, pulling the tape back so that we can see what's underneath. And it is going to be, I think, a lot of release of information that is secret that it's going to be like, oh, wow. What are we focused on with Mercury retrograde? Is there someone leaving a position? Is there some kind of rulership handover going on? What is coming up from the past? And it could have relations with family issues, ancestry. And on the same day, Jupiter goes into the sign of Leo, a sign of royalty, celebrity, creativity. We'll see what happens with that. This expansion of heat and fire. Poor Europe is having like a blazing, blazing, blazing heat wave that is likely to get a bit worse with Jupiter going into the sign of Leo, intensifying the heat. I called Mercury retrograde Mommy Dearest. And so we'll see if what comes out about, family stuff. And the thing I keep saying and getting since last year is do not leave children unattended for a minute near water or in cars or pets, small pets. So that's something I think, and already we've heard of tragedies happening around these topics. In my own town, people were a child was left in a car, and people had to um, break in to free them. Yeah, so there's big stuff. So it goes like what is in focus around these topics, and the World Cup is going on at the same time. So I'm really interested I'm not a big sports fan, but hearing about what is happening on that day at the World Cup. Are there ref calls when Mercury goes retrograde where the people get angry because they say it's not a correct call? Or is there really bad wind? Mars will have moved into Gemini, coming to meet Uranus. What's going on with the wind? Are balls like doing something funny or what have you? Are there like new formations on the field where like new feats of flexibility that get played over and over and over and over again? Because with Mercury retrograde, what are we focused on? Replaying, replaying, replaying. So we'll see what's coming up, but I think it could be some really big stuff. It's very important for the president because it's going to pull the tape back across his Venus and his Saturn, and the full moon is squaring his Mercury. He has all these things in the sign of Cancer in his 11th house of groups, friends, and yeah, organization. So that's going to be something. He just was supposed to sign this bill about housing, a cancer topic yesterday that we're recording this. And he said, I'm not signing it till this voter register save act is signed. So that really feels like um, Mars. We'll talk about that in a minute. Mars squaring the nodes, but that's something big stuff coming up with him. And then Israel's midheaven is at 25 degrees of Cancer, and Mercury's going from 26 Cancer back to 16 Cancer, pulling back the tape on that. So, and the US administration and Israel administration are butting heads about the US wants to keep a ceasefire with the Iran war, and Israel is advancing in Lebanon, and it is the whole world is in jeopardy of a complete of depression or energetic catastrophe as the Strait of Hormuz opens and closes, opens and closes. It's open right now. Let's hope it stays this way. Let's hope Mercury retrograde, which rules communication, transportation, and commerce, doesn't lead to some kind of like big cyber thing or closing the strait again. We'll see what happens. I mean, it is just such a big energetic shock, this full moon. It could be a lot. What do you think about the full moon?
Such great points, Celeste. And actually, going back, talking about the Mars conjunct Uranus, we start the first of week of July with a bang. And what's going to be interesting, Celeste, is this is going to permeate through the US's solar return for the upcoming year. And in Gemini, if we're using the Sibley chart, this is going to fall in the seventh house of open enemies. So I'm not overly optimistic with these agreements and ceasefires. Who knows what might happen? But as this has been tracked through the months, we started off with Mars Pluto, so many different connections with Mars with the start of the Iran war. So I'm a little bit cautious about this, and especially as it permeates through the United States solar return. Because if we look back to the solar return of 2025 into 2026, we had Pluto conjunct the ascendant, we had Mercury trade in the seventh house of open enemies, and then of course we had the T square with the moon, the people in Scorpio in fall. So everybody was pissed off, weren't they, Celeste? Or they have been, particularly in the United States for the year. Now, not sure if the upcoming solar return is as bad this year. However, we do have this Mars Uranus conjunction, and the moon, the people are going to be squaring this Mars Uranus. So that's something I think to be cautious about as we go through the rest of the year. And of course, the Aries ingress for the United States was very interesting as well. So I was wondering about your thoughts. You do great work with the US chart. So what do you think, Celeste?
Yeah, the Aries ingress had Mercury stationing direct. And when I looked at it, I called it full stop. And we have seen there was many months of a full stop of oil and fertilizer and whatever else that comes from the Middle East. We've learned so much that people had no idea about how dependent we are on the Middle East, not just for oil, but for helium, which is used in all kinds of stuff, for components that make fertilizer, which so crops, there's going to definitely be, with Chiron has now moved into the sign of Taurus, there's definitely going to be issues with the harvest um, of food that is going to cause prices to go up, or food insecurity. And it is just a perfect storm for a lot of people in the country who are impoverished. The United States, the richest country in the world, has so many people who are impoverished, and the working poor who can barely get by because of low wages. And so this, I feel like, is that Mars Uranus squaring the moon. That is like increased fury coming up because of the lack of resources and fury and frustration and anxiety with Mars and Uranus in an air sign of Gemini, which is about mental processes. So it's really big stuff and unnecessary hardship that has been people are facing due to this war, where the story of why we're even there changes every day, or the objectives. Who knows what the objectives are? I mean, they have changed. So it's what a time to be, what a time to be alive in this precipice of massive, massive, massive change. Yeah.
As you're saying, Celeste, with people tightening their belt, what compounds these matters is we have now Chiron in Taurus as well. We're talking about fixed Earth. We're talking about, we could be talking about bigger things like the environment, but where are people getting their substances from? So we've got all these themes permeating. Now, before we get to the second week, I'd love to know your thoughts. Of course, the big news story here for centuries to come is the outer planets at the 4 degrees, all
Yeah.
making this minor grand trine. I wanted to get your thoughts because we'll not see an alignment of this magnitude until the 22nd century. So, Celeste, I'd love to hear your thoughts on what that might entail.
Yes. Well, before I do that, you mentioned Chiron, the wounded healer, now in Taurus. And the last couple of times there's been back in the Great Depression, Chiron was in Taurus. The wound is about resources, values, money, it's the land. It gets stuff gets real in the earth signs, in the fixed earth sign. And in the 70s, late 70s, 80s, there was the oil crises and all kinds of financial stuff as well. So we know there's going to be uh, some financial stuff coming up. But when the moon went into Scorpio and opposed Chiron in Taurus for the first time, this just happened this I think it was on the 24th of June. France announced its first Ebola case. So I think we really need to pay attention. Hopefully it's something that it's something that passes by and that they get it under control and it's not a big outbreak, but with Saturn and Neptune in Aries, Saturn and Neptune are often associated with illness and weakness. Chiron in Taurus, and there's with Uranus and Gemini, this can be trying Pluto and Aquarius, like fast moving air stuff could be an issue. So I think pay attention. And if you feel like you want to put a mask on a plane or in the grocery store or something like that, I really suggest, or wherever you can sit in your living room with a mask on if you want. But I really suggest people think about how can you protect your lungs. Wash your hands constantly. If you touch any doors or anything, I think the best thing we can do is keep ourselves well rested as what we can and um, as healthy as possible to confront these spreading. God knows what will happen. But also, the last people from the hantavirus cruise were let out of let out of quarantine right before this, right after Chiron entered Taurus. So that's good news. And the military had taken away the requirement to get the flu vaccine, which had been in place since for decades, because in one of the world wars, most of the soldiers died of the flu. People think the flu is no big deal anymore, but it's very serious. And in Texas, after they took away this requirement, people stopped getting the vaccine, and 300 people on a base in Texas, an Air Force base, which speaks to Uranus and Gemini. To me, Uranus has associations with aviation, got the flu and are sick, and the the requirement is back, was announced the day that the moon and Scorpio opposed Chiron. So pay attention to health news as well. It's a crazy, an incredible time to be alive. And you mentioned the cosmic wedge, the talent trine, where Uranus in Gemini and Pluto in Aquarius are in a trine. They're both air signs. Air is about humanity. Air communicates and connects. When we think Aquarius, we're talking about like systems, networks, social movements. And with Gemini, communication, and Uranus innovates, Pluto transforms, trines remove all restrictions. So there's just like fast moving innovations as part of it. And both of them are in a sextile to Neptune in Aries. And one of the things we're seeing with this is like big sweeping changes happening faster than you thought was possible with Mandani in New York. He came in and he has made such massive changes in New York and pushing towards, like, he's not one of those politicians who just told people who what they wanted to hear. He hit the road ground running, talking about putting in community grocery stores, talking about Pluto and Aquarius, and that Uranus and Gemini, changing the local community. Gemini, what's near around you, your local community. Talking about um, childcare for people with Gemini rules children. This is like big transformative stuff, and stuff is happening. He balanced the budget or something for the first time in ages. The Knicks winning was just like one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen with Jupiter. Venus and Jupiter at 25 Cancer met on the ascendant of New York City. Talk about Venus and Jupiter bringing it, that joyful jubilation, celebration, connection, where you saw thousands and thousands of people in the street connecting with each other, singing the Empire State of Mind song. I just thought it was just so absolutely beautiful to witness and watch. And Madani said something about, so often New York has to come together for tragedy. And it was just so wonderful to come together for something joyful. And just this week, there has been a political earthquake as Mars was at 25 degrees of Taurus, well, going to 26, which is Algol, the fixed star of beheadings. And his candidates he endorsed in New York took out the established Democratic candidates in the primary. So a beheading of these people, the social democratic movement is gaining steam as he's one of the leaders that is showing there can be a different way to move forward with people. And some people who are going to start waking are already starting to wake up like, well, why can't we have childcare? Why can't we have this after people have been told how awful it is to give someone a
This is
caretake
why the
community?
establishment are terrified that it's actually working. He is the face of politics done well and transforming the society in New York. And of course, all of his candidates who he supported have gone through. So, as you're saying, I wonder with these generational outer planets moving, societal transformation and moving away from old antiquated systems and established ways of doing things. It really is with so many planets and so many different signs, but Pluto and Aquarius, almost like their let them eat cake moment for not just the America, but for the world. There's a lot of people just annoyed, pissed off to the hills, and they're saying enough is enough. There's a new way of doing this for the collective rather than for the more, you might say, Capricornian structure of a hierarchy. It's kind of like, no, let's bring it back to the people. And as you're saying, Celeste, they're showing it can work. And everybody is terrified in the establishment because once people see that, they go, hold on a minute, like you've just said, I want this in Texas, or I want this in New Mexico, I want this, in California. It's all of these places.
Absolutely. I think we're going to be seeing people open to new ways of doing things because uh, this accepts. And Neptune and Aries is mythic heroes. And Mondani is one of the mythic heroes who has risen since Neptune went into Aries, someone who is passionate, willing to fight for like a larger belief system. Um, yeah, and that people really look to as a leader to bring us forward into the future. He's one. Aaron Brockovich is back. Um, this is a great movie to watch about as we are moving through this time with these data centers. Oh my God, the things that they are doing. I was watching her talk about how in certain places, like there's this town with one of these data centers, and they have horses. This feels like so much with Chiron and Taurus, and the horses haven't had a foal or litter or whatever you call it when they have babies for like a year since these data centers has come in. These data centers are wreaking havoc on people's mental well-being. People are having headaches. There's this constant hum, the water's being drained and all this kind of stuff. So that's another thing we're seeing where people are coming together in Utah. A state where there's a lot of like uh Capricornian hierarchy, people are furious and really fighting against one of these, like a data center the size of Manhattan. Oh my God, it's just unbelievable. So the greed, the just insane greed of certain wealthy people is coming to a head. And when Jupiter goes into Leo, who is being taken down as Jupiter opposes Jupiter and Leo, the special ones, the elite, the celebrity, opposing Pluto in Aquarius, opposite the group. Yeah, I'm wondering if the Kushners, the people of Albania aren't having it with them taking over this island for whatever purposes they think they're taking over it for, and are demanding the resignation of their prime minister. And that would be a great full moon, Capricorn full moon, for him to have to resign because they've been in the streets for like 20 days or something like that.
It's
So,
almost comical at this moment in time. Not only are we in the second Gilded Age, you've got Elon Musk, who's just become the first world's trillionaire, and it's almost, even the United States, the corruption is almost comical. It's over the top. It's idiocracy on steroids. It's absolutely outrageous. And as you said before, Celeste, people are now starting to wake up. And I think with, yes, we do have the trine, but we have the double sextile. Of course, we have opportunities here, but collectively we have to make the effort to change these systems, I think, as we move forward.
yeah, there are opportunities for collaboration, and when these mythic heroes are there to help lead people forward, oh my God, the momentum. And sometimes you don't even need a mythic hero, like what happened um, in Minnesota, where, and last year there was, I think it was in Texas, so in Texas, I think it was, somebody just started a community when the government took away SNAP benefits when they were closed down. Someone just started a community where they put food out at their mailbox and said, take what you need. And it like started this movement. So we're going to see more and more collective movements as people come together, sharing resources because of what is happening collectively. And people, Andre Barbeau said that this time is one of and this configuration we're talking about, and he included Saturn and Neptune, which were met at February 20th, and this formation of this mini grand trine is one of the most constructive planetary configurations of our eras. And yeah, and it's not just about isolated events. It suggests multiple systems changing simultaneously. The world could look so different um, in a few months. And the question is, why does it look so different in a few months? Is it um, there's so many things that could be occurring, leaders changing hands, There's big things like poor Venezuela had this massive earthquakes. There were four earthquakes in one day in California, two in Venezuela, and one in Japan as Mars was on algol. So by the time this is up, there may be, who knows? So I was reviewing my earthquake plan last night. I live in California, but there could be massive something that happens, whether it's a natural disaster or like some kind of solar flare with Jupiter and Leo opposite Pluto, where like a grid kind of goes out or something like that. There can be something big and seismic that leads to this domino of the these changing systems all at once. The bubble could burst with AI. Yeah, there's so much that could be going on with this Jupiter in Leo, square Chiron in Taurus. We'll see what that is. And you mentioned Elon must be a trillionaire. As of yesterday, he was no longer a trillionaire. Um, that stock, SpaceX stock, where, they socialize losses but privatize gains. And this is how they game the system, and it's outrageous. And I think the things that are happening, the American people need it to be so ridiculous, it's comical in order to do something about it and make change because they would take 90 cents and give everybody else a dime and not think about it twice. But anyway, Uranus was squaring the nodes when that SpaceX was launched. So that stock is going to be volatile. It's like volatility is in its nature. And there's real concerns about how they are transferring the the gains to the wealthy and the losses to the people's 401ks.
We know for a fact they didn't have any astrologers for what was that launch where it blew up? Was that a Mars Pluto square? So they certainly didn't have an
Oh,
astrologer advising that launch.
that was Bezos.
Oh, was it?
And his Blue Origin thing blew up. It didn't even make it off the launch pad.
They definitely needed an astrologer for that. But Celeste, absolutely brilliant. And the one thing, word of caution, which Celeste, you said a few years ago, which because we're coming up for the 4th of July, which of course is a holiday in the United States, as we know with transits, they don't always happen on the day. They can build up and they can resonate at one or two days after. But as we do have this Mars conjunct Uranus July 3rd, I'd caution people about the 4th of July, fireworks, Mars, Uranus, volatility. I just say to people, be extra cautious out there partying. Neptune the week later is stationing, it's slowing down to turn retrograde, so maybe not overdo it with the drink and the partying. Celeste, I know you always have wonderful advice on this.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, one of the things with Jupiter square Chiron, this feels like fire and heat baking the earth. And that Mars conjunct Uranus, somebody is going to start like a massive fire somewhere with fireworks. And Gemini rules the hand. And Mercury's going to be retrograde, so people aren't thinking clearly. They're getting in fights. There can be some of these, like they're called teen takeovers, things happening. It could be really a lot of wild stuff happening around the 4th of July. But the thing I'm most concerned with is weather. There could be like tornado vibes because Uranus is disruptive and Mars makes it even more disruptive, and it's wind. And with the Jupiter square Chiron, I think it could be, the like I think there could be delays in 4th of July celebrations because of the weather. It's also an issue. So, yeah, be very careful with fireworks and fire in general. And if you're around anyone who's a little volatile, don't poke the bear because people could just crash out and go insane. People are on the edge, so keep that in mind. Yeah. And the other thing I wanted to say is something that I just forgot. What was it I wanted to say? But with the Mars and Gemini sextile Neptune, this could be amazingly creative energy for someone who is like if you're a poet or a writer, or even if you're not, it's a great time to get out your journal with Mercury retrograde in Cancer. You can really dig deep and bring up some of things that may be hidden from you, your emotional landscape, onto the page and learn about yourself. I've been recommending for my students to, throughout this Mercury retrograde, June 29th through July 23rd, to consider like pulling an oracle card every day, asking a question to investigate your emotional landscape about safety, security, triggers, all this kind of stuff. So
Great,
yeah,
great advice, and hopefully over this weekend there's no violence. But everyone, be careful out there on the
yeah, be
holiday
careful. Oh, there are going to be fights.
weekend.
People are going to be brawling, but hopefully there's not any large scale attacks. I'm just not that worried about it for 4th of July, but this this 5th of July, Mars trine Pluto retrograde, this could be, yeah, Mars and Gemini trine Pluto retrograde. This could be accidents and things like that. My concern is with this earthquake stuff. If there's something going on with the ring of fire, we'll see what happens. But there could be, keep your car full of gas, especially if you are in an earthquake zone. And if you get the intuition to maybe I should head out of town, just do it because this could be with Mercury retrograde, lots of people on the road trying to get out of town because there's been some kind of thing. So we'll see what happens. And Gemini, Mars Uranus could be, and Gemini could be a big problem on a roadway or a roadway, Mars Neptune, something dissolving. So yeah, we'll see what happens. No, it's big stuff, but it may also be about information coming out. Reporter, Gemini's a reporter. So pay attention to what a big breaking news stories are happening, what secrets are revealed. And yeah, just it's a great 4th of July to celebrate quietly with friends. I would not go to a large scale event. Apparently, Taylor Swift is getting married or something, or in Madison Square Garden or something. There's rumors on the 3rd. I don't know about that. Anyway, with Mars Uranus, that's
I don't think she has an astrologer for that one, Celeste.
that's a real strange day to be doing anything with groups. Yeah. Sun square Saturn. What hardship are we getting a glimpse on? So the Sun in Cancer square Saturn in Aries. This is going to be really interesting to see how this shows up. Some military failure being put in the spotlight, perhaps, or military leader. Sun is leader type figures. We're seeing part of the story, half of the story with the square is coming to our attention about some kind of failure, hardship, limitation, pressure, some new boundary. Is this something about, hey, join the army? It's going to be so much fun to blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And it could be countries around the world, something about a draft or people having to military service or something. And also think about the World Cup. What happens when the sun's Cancer, Sun, Square, Saturn are people of different countries. Now that Mercury's going retrograde, people might not be so dancing in the street joyfully friendly with each other as they have been, and they start getting, getting nativistic and fighting with each other, hopefully just verbally about, whatever, my country's better than your country.
It's quite interesting what you're talking about with the Sun square Saturn because it just popped into my mind thinking about the US solar return. So if we have the Sun as leader and Saturn, I wonder, hopefully, for the next coming year for the United States, hopefully there's a check on the president here in the United States. So that is going to permeate. The Sun's going to be applying to that square in the US solar return. So for me, I'm hoping that is the case as we go through the rest of the year. But as you're saying, Celeste, there's so much going on this week with the Neptune stationing to go retrograde. For me, this kind of overshadows this particular week. as we know, with any planet that stations to go direct or retrograde, usually one of the loudest planets in the skies. So not only did we have quite a volatile first week with the Mars Uranus, second week we've already got Mercury retrograde, we've got the Neptune station to go retrograde. Things not might be very clear here. I would say if you have the option to take a break or have a vacation, it might not be the easiest energy, but if you're still working or out on the roads, whatever you might be doing, there just might be so much energy going on. It just might be a confusing time at this moment in time, especially as we go into the second week.
Yes, this is the date I'm concerned about, July 7th, when Neptune stations retrograde and pulls back the tape to see what's underneath in the sign of Aries, conflict, war, heat, violence. Last year, when Neptune went retrograde, Elon Musk's Grok started praising Hitler. So that's what we had last. Whenever a planet goes retrograde, what are you seeing? Because there's something important that we're seeing with that. And just recently, Grok was said to be, this is his AI thing. Um, Said to be protected because it was helping the US with the war in Iran. So that's a little bit concerning. What is this thing doing? But I called this transit when I did the forecast for Kepler last year like a heat wave. So I think I'm very concerned about heat and heat and fire. Yeah. So, but there's also the opportunity for innovate. I wrote innovate because it's important for Iran because the moon is at 10 degrees on their sun. So why are people looking there? And it's besieged between Neptune and Saturn. And I wrote innovative solutions for the water crisis they're having there. Well, they already had a bunch of rain earlier in the year. Well, we'll see if there's some big rain or water or anything. What's going on with that country? That why is the moon on their sun? But I'm wondering if there's some big weather event because the next day Venus goes into Virgo and Venus is retrograde. So Venus going through that 29th degree of Leo, this fun, joyful crisis and decay 29 degrees of that Leonic energy, the heat into the sign of Virgo, Venus's fall, Virgo, where there is this theme of the party's over. It's like, and you look around and it's like, okay, I'm ready. What is happening? Are people in the stands? My biggest fear is getting sick with something. Virgo is a sign of health. Yeah.
I love
So
that point, Celeste. It was on my mind. Venus going into Virgo, almost as you say, is the cleanup committee after the wild parties in Leo. Now, even though I think this might mute the collective somewhat, we still are having Jupiter in Leo, so I don't think the party's quite over yet. But I do like a Venus in Virgo. Yes, traditionally it's in its fall, but I see this Venus in Virgo as like the bookkeeper, the hairdresser, the people put in, we've had the party, let's clean up, let's get organized, let's get our shit together, excuse my French. It's like, let's clean up after ourselves. So I don't mind a Venus and Virgo.
yeah, I like a Venus in Virgo, but I'm just like, what is the event that is speaking to it? It could be monetarily. Is there something monetarily we're looking at that there's a loss of wealth with Jupiter moving from Cancer to Leo? It's Jupiter loses dignity and then Venus loses dignity, and they're both associated with Jupiter abundance and wealth. Venus money. Is there a story related to wealth? Elon Musk's stock went down already. He's no longer a trillionaire. Is there another correction that makes big news around that? Yeah.
Course, the stock market right now is built on matchsticks and it's all AI, and everyone's been talking about this bubble for a long time. Now, whether this is Venus losing dignity and Jupiter at this moment in time, we'll have to see. But
Mhm.
I think that's coming eventually, where those house of cards look like they'll come down.
Yeah, well, Venus hitting that south node, the south node makes a big sucking sound. So, what is going down the drain? What is being released is called the cosmic toilet. Now, it could be like a beloved celebrity, Venus and Leo, or a couple, like a royal couple splits up because Venus and Virgo is the independent lady. So that could be one of the stories we're seeing in the collective, or someone, has a beloved or a big name has a health concern or something. So we'll see it on a micro scale and a macro scale. So just pay attention to what's the news is saying July 9th through 11th about relationships, money, and diplomacy. That's not good. Venus and Virgo is not good for diplomacy because you're like nitpicking every point about what you're getting.
That's a great point. It's a great point. Wonderful. Okay, Celeste, into week 3. What's going on for you?
Yeah, Mercury Kazemi, Mercury retrograde meets the sun. This is a great time for you to get some internal uh, understandings about, you may get brilliant ideas, connections about why you feel certain ways. It can be a great time because Kazemi is like where a planet sits at the foot of the sun, which is the king, and can ask a favor or ask for clarification. So, what is being clarified to you? And it might, with the retrograde, all be internal within you. But there is always death and life symbology with retrogrades. Like, circle this on your calendar, the 11th to 13th. This is a big deal where really don't leave any kids or pets unattended over these days.
Now we're going to have the Venus, obviously not in great shape, square in Uranus, and thinking about the financial picture that you were talking about, Celeste, I wonder if there's just this extra volatility in the markets. As you say, we've got the Venus going into a fall, conjuncting the South Node, and then coming up to the square to Uranus. So unpredictability, maybe in the marketplace. You can take that to an individual financial level. People tightening their belts with Venus in Virgo. It's kind of like discerning what is going to be useful and what isn't. A Venus in Leo might be, yeah, let's go and enjoy the party, let's spend. But that Venus in Virgo is like, let's cross our T's, dot our I's, and let's work on our budget.
Mhm. And then here's the new moon in Cancer. And it's almost to 22 degrees, and 22 and a half of the cardinal signs are world points. So this new moon, something important is being seeded around Cancer topics: home, motherhood, housing, land. Hopefully that bill will get signed. Hopefully it won't take this long. This housing bill that's meant to help Americans on a larger scale. It's bipartisan, so hopefully that comes up. But what's going on about immigration? Is there something going on about immigration? Is there themes of, like, there's been the current US government has been making it difficult for certain fans, players, a referee from Somalia. Oh my God, he was not allowed to come to the country. So there could be some stories around that. But then we have this Uranus sextile Neptune retrograde. Uranus in Gemini, Neptune retrograde in Aries. This could be you're freeing yourself from a mental prison, like the Eight of Swords in the tarot deck, by getting new, creative, innovative ideas about how you want to move forward with something. This could be really wonderful on a personal level. There's opportunities for collaborations. You may get an invitation out of the blue to do something collaborative. So keep that in mind. And then, ooh, the Uranus trine Pluto. This is when something's really taken off. Yeah, I was just hearing Puerto Rico's having a water crisis. So maybe this Uranus sextile Neptune could be some help to that water crisis. Maybe the new moon could be rain in places that are struggling with water issues. But yeah, massive unexpected changes are coming to large groups of people or networks with Uranus and Gemini trine Pluto and Aquarius.
Wonderful point. And I would
Yeah.
say, to your point earlier, to make this more personal, of course, we're talking about the outer planets here, but if you've got in your natal chart planets at 4 degrees, regardless if it's mutable, cardinal, or fixed, pay attention to this moment in time because this is going to permeate for a long time.
If you're working on something, your mind may unlock some kind of great great ideas. This is a time, fortune favors the bold. This is a time for courage. A lot of people are unexpectedly going to have to become entrepreneurs because certain jobs are going away. Like Cisco just laid off 21,000 people. Like, I mean, there's the economy, US economy is in big trouble. Yeah, and with what's going on and with this war, it's just it's like the Jenga tower. Oh my God, there's like holes through through parts of it, but it's still standing. And sometimes it wobbles. But what is the thing? Which block is which aspect is where the tower potentially crumbles, or is there going to be something that happens to secure it again? Yeah,
So we are living in uncharted territory in this moment in
totally
time. So it's
uncharted.
scary and exciting at the
It
same time, I
is
think.
because I called this year the great unraveling that leads to the great reimagining. So it's scary, these endings, but something coming could be really incredible. Yeah, the 4 degrees is such a big thing. And here we go where we're getting to like the 19th with that Libra moon goes through that 4 degrees. This is a big deal. This could be something around legal affairs or one of the things that new moon in Cancer could be about birthright citizenship. That's something the Supreme Court is deliberating. Yeah. And Mars in Gemini sextile Saturn and Aries. This could be something coming up this day with Jupiter trine Neptune. Jupiter and Leo trine Neptune and Aries can be amazing. Someone could have the best day of their lives. Yeah, there could be delays with this Mars sextile Saturn. Like there's something that's restrictive and a problem, but with the Mars and Saturn being activated, but Jupiter and Neptune being in a trine can be really expansive and beautiful and creative and ah, just incredible. Oh, this is the day of the end of the World Cup.
That's
Oh, yeah. This is going to be interesting to see what happens because the president of the United States is supposed to be going to do something with the prize, maybe take it home. I don't know. But and he's got to transfer his FIFA Peace Prize maybe to someone else. But apparently, there's news that his handlers are concerned about him going to this big event because there's certain countries like New Zealand, Australia, England, and I don't know if it's Scotland or what the other one is, but they've made up little rhymes about him that they're singing all over the World Cup that are not flattering. They deal with his friendship with a certain Jeffrey. So they're trying to manage there being some kind of big takedown of a royal figure by a big crowd with Jupiter opposing Pluto retrograde in Aquarius. If he goes there, I think you're going to be hearing what they have to say from outer space. And it might be something new that has been created over this World Cup that gets a debut. I don't know. We'll see what happens with that. That is going to be really interesting to see what goes on at that closing ceremony.
I think
Yeah.
you're absolutely spot on with that because with Jupiter opposite Pluto, we could be ramping up the ideological conflicts. We've got Jupiter, expansion, wisdom. Pluto is tapping into the opposition of who holds the power here? So maybe that's a collective question of where does the power lay, and is it with the few or is it with the collective? Now, what's interesting, the Jupiter Pluto cycle is roughly every 13 years in the opposition. But one of the most interesting ones, if you go further back to the 50s, was McCarthyism and the Red Scare. So maybe some of these repeating themes of ideological conflicts, and of course with the MAGA base, it's kind of this sense of if you're not in our cult, then we don't care about you. And that's kind of, so I like how you're saying that. That kind of ties in to what I've been feeling as well.
Oh, absolutely. And with Jupiter, the Jupiter Pluto square was at 0 degrees of Jupiter was in Taurus, Pluto in Aquarius, May of 2023, and that was concerns about the debt ceiling. So now they're in opposition. This makes me nervous about bubbles bursting. Yeah, and this can bring overconfidence. Jupiter in Leo is beautiful, where it can be like people have the confidence to take risks, to go for what they want, to let their light shine. But there's also this expansion of arrogance. And Jupiter can just assume things are going to go well and not take care of crossing the I's, dotting the T's, or crossing the T's, dotting the I's, and doing all the preparation. So we may see like a bit of a disaster for certain people. And this could be at your company. Someone comes up to give this great big presentation about this, that, and the other thing project. And then the people around the table start asking questions, and like they crumble like a Jenga tower, their whole idea. You could see this in your boardroom or in one of your meetings, where someone hasn't thought through all the details of something, and it's the plan is blah. But it can be like groups of people letting somebody know what they really think about them. The elites are getting their reckoning. We're seeing how this is like a let them eat cake time. Pluto was in Aquarius at the French Revolution. There was Ivanka Trump did this interview about discovering this island in Albania, and how she swam to it, and walked to the top of the island barefoot, and just said, I am going to make this into a paradise, blah, 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 blah. So much hard work, blah, blah, blah. And it went over like a lead balloon. And like this was her Marie Antoinette kind of moment. She's in her Uranus opposition and getting, although she has Uranus in Scorpio, it's not, it's still an orb. So yeah. And we're seeing like this Mr. Wonderful for Canada talking about like he's doing this great thing for Utah, trying to suck their land water dry and build this massive, hideous data center that's going to drive people insane, as though he's doing a good thing. And had said that the people complaining about it were paid agitators. And like people are there looking at their neighbors, and no, it's like that kind of Neptune and Aries is pop the balloon. The propaganda, which is very Neptunian, is no longer working because people are becoming face to face with reality, as Saturn reality meets Neptune, the illusion. And yeah, that's what's happening.
Such a great point about the propaganda, because as we saw with the Mandani candidates, well outspent by their opponents, and people are ignoring the attack ads nowadays. We're so saturated and desensitized by all the propaganda in the last few years. People have had enough, as you're saying, Celeste. They're like, no more, pop that balloon. We're not believing what you're trying to sell us, and we're starting to see the backlash there, I think. Yeah.
Yes, people are waking up into how we've all been manipulated, and starting to. I called this the mini Grand Trine, the road to Damascus, where people like when Saul was on the road to Damascus and he was struck blind for 3 days, but then he was awakened, and he received, he had a religious conversion where his the scales fell away from his eyes, and then he became a disciple of Jesus and changed his name to Paul. So this is what a lot of people have been going through over the last year since Uranus went into Gemini. awakening people to propaganda, what they thought, illusions popping, all of this. Absolutely. Yeah. And then Jupiter sextiles Uranus. Yeah. This whole thing at 4 degrees. I think it was S.J. Anderson who gave it the name, but he called it the Barbeau basket because the chart pattern looks like a basket when you have the Jupiter opposite Pluto and Pluto trines Uranus, Jupiter trines Neptune, and then they're all connected like by these sextiles. And this is in this is when something like really big could be coming to light, and it has the ability to like incredible innovation. It could come from a revolution, it could come from just some new social idea, social network coming to light. It could come with a takedown of some elite figure or elite people. Yeah, it'll be really interesting to see how this shows up. But I think it is something to be excited about. And we'll see how people, ordinary people, can come together and collaborate. That's what sextiles offer, an invitation and an opportunity to come together and collaborate and like make transformative things happen. There could be that is something that's launched that is like new products or new things that are launched that are like, oh my God, wow, this is so wild and innovative. Hmm. Yeah.
Wonderful place for an opportunity. And then, of course, we're going to be entering Leo season. So the sun gains its ultimate dignity. So this is a time, especially when we get to each rising sign, we can look at your Leo house, see where you might be shining for the upcoming month or towards the end. And along with Jupiter, that's going to be co present as well. And on top of that, we're going to have the Mercury slowing down to station direct. So at least, yes, it's slowing down, but we'll be starting to move forward very slowly in the days and weeks after the station. So I always, even if it's going direct, always keep in mind those rewords. If you're on vacation, double check your itinerary, make sure you're crossing your T's, dotting your I's at this moment in time, because that Mercury is still trying to get itself out there and it's going to be slow at this moment in time. What
Hmm.
are your thoughts, Celeste?
The sun enters Leo. Yay. But what's going on as the sun goes from 29 Cancer? What's going on as that there's some crisis and decay around um housing, immigration, something like that. The sun enters Leo. Their spotlight is can be on the spotlight on the king, on the royalty. Yeah, one of the things I thought may happen at the full moon in Capricorn or at some point soon will King Charles abdicate the throne because of his health and pass it on to William. And that could be Sun in Leo square Chiron in Taurus. There is something because his moon is like right around zero Taurus. Like Chiron is on the king's moon right now, so he may be really feeling his health stuff. So we'll see if this is part of the story, but this could be a leader looking unhealthy or weak with the sun in Leo, a royal figure. They don't have to be a literal royal figure. And Mercury stations direct at this day in Cancer, so a sign of family. What is going on? What is being announced? Yeah, yeah. And there can be a lot of, a lot of internally, you may notice that some things come up about your self confidence with the sun spotlighting Leo. And what do you do in order to get the applause or the recognition or whatever that you feel you need? And with Chiron and Taurus, there can be a poking of a wound around self worth and confidence, and you maybe make some connections in your head about your that stuff. And with Mercury sextile Venus, this is a beautiful energy. Mercury in Cancer sextile Venus in Virgo. This is ordinary people coming together in order to, or workers coming together in order to collaborate, maybe about getting their rights or something like that. I can see this being something, but this is great energy. I like that Mercury is going retrograde in this sextile to Venus in Virgo. I think this can be getting into the details, bringing some, with Virgo, bring some emotional passion to it with Cancer, and yeah, just notice how you keep yourself safe versus go for what you want.
I love that because Mercury is not really fast at this moment in time. So this sextile to the Venus kind of lingers on a little bit
Mhm.
more than it would do if Mercury was at full speed. And of course, Mercury takes its domicile from Venus being in Virgo, so that's quite a nice relationship for those two. So I think that's a great point.
I think so too. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's great that they're in and the Neptune retrograde sextile Pluto retrograde. What information are we finding out with that? We'll see. We'll see deception becoming clear that has a massive influence on a lot of people. Like maybe we're finding out all over the world about the backdoor deals that leaders do in order to enrich themselves, make things happen. Yeah, a lot of corruption can be coming to light during this time, and people may have had enough. Maybe Americans are talking to people from Europe about how they've got 6 weeks of vacation and health care and all the propaganda that they've been told about how evil it is to have health care. There could be some waking up of some people who were asleep before during
Absolutely.
this time as the
Start
people
waking up.
connect
The corruption is uncharted. It's absolutely off
off
the
the
Richter
charts.
scale.
Yeah, and that reflecting pool being growing algae after the president drained it, paid it no bid. Some dude, you know, and it's just an absolute disaster. Anyway,
Really, it just encapsulates for me the whole administration. It's the corruption, it's the incompetence, it is just the symbolism for this current administration, in my view, obviously in my humble opinion. But it
yeah.
really does. It really just shows the level of corruption and incompetence. It's mind blowing, Celeste.
Yes, and there just came out this book, Regime Change, by Maggie Haberman and Jonathan Swan of the New York Times, where they documented all this stuff from the first year of the Trump administration. And one of the things that's getting a lot of attention is how he picked his cabinet, like in minutes, like he was staffing a reality TV show. Pete Hegseth got his job. Nobody wanted him because he looks good on TV to the president.
Unbelievable.
And
Unbelievable.
speaking of him, Saturn station in retrograde may be the end of him because Saturn stations retrograde in the sign of Aries opposite Saturn and Libra in the United States Sibley chart. So the United States is in right now for the whole month and has been a Saturn opposition where, and the 10th house is the leader in the executive branch, the and the reputation, and the fourth house is the land rebel party, the opposing party and rebels, land, housing markets, things, opposing parties and rebels. And think about Saturn is exalted in Libra, where the hard work of relationships, that's where Saturn is exalted. What's harder than relationships? Diplomacy, collaboration, coming together with people. It's so much easier to destroy than to build. And Saturn is currently transiting Aries, the sign of its fall, where the institutions are weak. The leadership can take extreme actions out of impatience and things like that. We just saw that this week, but the whole country is dealing with this opposition. And we're seeing all these warehouse fires. There was this thing last month or this earlier this month where this town in Southern California was on pins and needles while this air and 50,000 people were evacuated because this aerospace facility was rushing to, well, they didn't say this, but there was some kind of leak or something, but they were in overdrive trying to get orders filled or something for the war. And it could have blown an entire city off of the planet. Thank God it didn't. But yeah, these warehouse fires all over the country are going on. There's a lot of strange stuff. There's fires in Utah, fires in places all over. So we're really seeing the land being an issue. Um, and like the Housing Act that was supposed to be signed, and the president just said, I'm not signing it until you give me what I want with my voting act. Yeah, things like that are happening. But this is the date I'm looking to, July 26th, because the nodes change signs. What is the big event that is happening? And it may have already been set in motion around the 19th or so, but this symbolically is something really big that impacts massive numbers of people because the North Node is going into Aquarius, amplifying networks, people. The South Node is going into Leo, draining on personal sovereignty. This could be, I'm calling this F your feelings. This is like nobody wants to hear about you whining or complaining about anything. We just need to get together as a group and take care of something because of a hardship. Or is there massive change in like the military if a military leader is taken out? Or is there a leadership takeout at this time?
I agree with you, Celeste. This is one of the most significant aspects or part of the astrology for this month because this is going to be for the next 18 months, a year and a half. Now, I think might be nice if you have any heavy Virgo placements. I don't know, let us know in the comments, Virgo people, but having that South Node come out of Virgo, if you've been feeling drained over the last 18 months, and not to be too cliche with the Virgo energy, but we're now living in a world where there are no more rules. There's hardly any order. So for a lot of you Virgos out there, you must be having tearing your hair out for the last 18 months. So I think for you, nicely, that South Node is going to move away. And of course, we're going to have the South Node in Leo, the North Node in Aquarius. Now, what's the deal here? Well, the North Node is asking us, to Celeste's point, to start thinking about Aquarian ideals. This is no longer about me, the individual, the ego. It's about the collective sense of us coming together, especially with these outer planets at the 4 degrees. Where are we going collectively? What issues do we need to tackle together, whether it's climate change or these wars or the second Gilded Age? It's now hopefully bringing, emphasizing the power of the people rather than the individual. Now, I love all my Leo friends, but of course, sometimes the shadow side of the Leo energy is excessive narcissism. And we see that with the President of the United States. And I think the majority of people have just had enough of that me attitude. And now we've got to start thinking about those Aquarian ideals of how can we move forward together and not just for the benefit of individuals.
Absolutely. Yeah. Excessive narcissism is going to send a lot of people down the tubes with the South Node in Leo. And yeah, this could be a massive like event that's a natural disaster or something like that. Yeah. Fires. When Saturn went retrograde last year, there were the fires in the Grand Canyon. I called this Saturn retrograde in Aries a royal mess. It's going to go from 14 back to 7. So notice where that hits in your chart. Yeah. Scandals, resignations, or firings in Aries fields is something I wrote down.
That's a great point
Investigations
because
of
those Saturn retrogrades can be quite heavy. So, to your point, Celeste, if you've got cardinal planets around these degrees, certainly pay attention for that. Because this could, again, with any planet station in retrograde or direct, usually one of the loudest planets in the sky. So, for week 5, we might be feeling a little bit like the world's on our shoulders. It's Saturn, it's heavy, it's responsibility, not in great shape in Aries. So, this might not be the funnest week for a vacation, say.
uh Not at all. And I said, not a good day for a party or a wedding, that's for sure. Potential for
Mm.
electrical storms. Yeah, so pay attention to the weather very carefully. I think we all need to really pay attention to the weather because there's things happening in places they never happen. Now, Saturn stations conjunct fixed star Alpharaz. So there's a potential for escape from a captivity is what I wrote. So there could be really something wonderful. Well, unless it's sentence overturned. What if they let that lady out? Yeah. Financial compensation for unjust imprisonment is what I wrote down. And the US, and I did this last year, and they're trying to give the J6ers money for tearing up the Capitol. So, yeah, we'll see if that is a story at that time. But I think a big part of the South Node going through Virgo has been about the Epstein scandal and the survivors. And Virgo is Earth. Virgo's the maiden. Is something being unearthed around this story? I call it unearthing the Romanian angels because we're learning as well about charities. This is part of Neptune and Aries. Charity fronts that have been used in like war-torn areas to abuse young women and children as fronts for trafficking. So there's some like we're really seeing with Pluto and Aquarius, Pluto exposes us to the underworld and around groups and societies in order for us to heal and to move forward and to make different changes. So there could be some big blockbuster releases around that whole story, maybe the 23rd when Mercury stations direct, or right around this time. And it can be like, okay, you're coming down from that pedestal with it's on, like the revolution is on. When the north goes into Aquarius, the people are rising up and they're saying no more. It's not going to happen overnight. It's an 18-month transit. No more about these elite people who think they can just with their money and influence abuse anybody they so choose. It's coming to a head. It's coming to a head. We're seeing how the masks are being stripped off some of these formerly glamorous figures.
Absolutely.
And Sun opposite Pluto retrograde, that is a leader being embarrassed, humiliated, exposed for being uh, um, some kind of monster. Yeah. Yeah, with the sun trine net, like this, all this sun stuff in Leo, this is a big deal. And I also got with this solar flares. So is the sun the little, it's like the literal sun is throwing out energy. What sun figure is throwing out energy?
It's quite interesting in the solar flare cycle. I don't know if we've just gone past the peak of the
Yeah.
solar cycle, but we're still. It's not going to really calm down for the next couple of years before we get back to our minimum. And if you follow that historically, wild events seem to happen as that sun is more powerful and throwing, as you said, flares and how wild it is. It just conflates and just reinforces all the craziness I think we've been seeing.
And so many leaders, we're already seeing leaders being pulled down. Keir Starmer having to resign. Uh, will the Albanian guy have to resign? Yeah. Who knows? Like some of the biggest tyrants of the world may be soon to exit stage right. Could possibly be coming. Yeah, Venus square Mars. Venus in Virgo square Mars in Gemini. This is going to be really interesting because they're both reporting into Mercury in Cancer. That's moving very slowly. And there is tension between desires and actions. The battle of the sexes, the mm, peace and war are in a conflict, and this could be transportation conflicts with or the price of things is so it's going up. Yeah.
It's a
What do you
great
think
point
about that?
because they're both disposited by the Mercury. You've got Venus in Virgo, Mars in Gemini. I wonder. I would get the sense of almost those be fighting words. And with the battle of the sexes, as you've mentioned, traditionally we've got Venus, female archetype, Mars, male. I wonder if something, as you're mentioning, comes through the news of some, misogyny that happens and there's a backlash against it, or something comes around where it's the war of the words against, yeah, the two. Mm.
Hmm. Yeah, and Sun Jupiter. This is a Cazimi again. Now it's Jupiter in Leo is going through the heart of the sun. What is the death and rebirth theme? And what is Jupiter, the wealthy person, asking from the sun type figure? Is this a legal thing? Does a famous judge or professor or a famous Jupiter and Leo type, it could just be a celebrity. There is be a real spotlight on them. It could just be a celebrity divorce too. That makes a lot of news. But this full moon is big too because it's at 6 degrees of Aquarius where the moon is on the south node in the United States chart and the sun is on the north node. And if you look at it, in well, I use a Placidus, which would put it in the second and eighth houses, which is about resources and power dynamics. But the moon on the south node is like people. What are people losing? Is it a bunch of jobs? Is it a power outage? Is it what is it? Yeah, this is something's being spotlighted. There may just be like articles about what's happening to people in the United States now that all these SNAP benefits have been taken away, Medicare, people are losing all kinds of things. Like what is the loss societally? And are people's movements being limited because of anything related to health or um, resources like oil and things because of this conflict? There can be some big things that impact people's ability to move around or exercise their personal freedoms with the South Node in Leo.
Absolutely wild week, Celeste. Not only just an insane month, but week 5, Saturn stationed to go retrograde. We've got the node changes, Sun, Pluto, Neptune, Uranus, Venus square Mars, Sun conjunct Jupiter, full moon in Aquarius. I mean, there's just so much going on, not only for this week, for this month. It's been absolutely, it's going to be strapping your seatbelt.
It is. And the president's health is deteriorating day by day. So this could literally be something like that ginormous, where he has to step aside because his health concerns just become too much with the Sun and Leo square um, Chiron and opposite Pluto.
That'll
Yeah.
be really interesting to
We'll
see.
see. Who
So thank
knows?
you so much, Celeste, for going through the energetic principles of the first couple of weeks. A lot had to be said because a lot is coming up for the month of July.
Buckle up. This is all. Buckle up, sit back. Hopefully, it is. Hopefully, some of these things are exciting and beautiful. And there will be a lot of beauty with Jupiter and Leo. I personally am trying to live in a 24-hour container where I'm really focusing on enjoying and gratitude for anything I have at this moment because we know we're going into a time of resource constraints and limitations potentially on personal freedoms. But there's the great unraveling leading to the great reimagining. And what do you want your life to look like? There are going to be people who really benefit, who come out of nowhere, leaders who rise. What kind of leader are you? Everyone is a leader in some way. Do you want to get more involved in your local community or something? I think community is so important. Can you get to know your neighbors? Can you find common ground even if you like people are coming together with these data centers and stuff, and suddenly it's not so important about what someone's sexuality or pronoun is when they're talking about making you lose your mind with a humming thing going on day and night.
Absolutely wild. Well, biggest tree is expensive, and a lot of people are finding that out, unfortunately. So, Celeste, thank you so much. So, Celeste, again, thank you so much for going through the energetic principles of the first couple of weeks of July. Now we're going to get into each rising sign. So, talking about our Aries rising friends, Celeste, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so Aries rising, you have had quite a bit of time now with Saturn and Neptune in your sign. So you probably already get some of the understanding of the story. And for a lot, I mean, are you putting in the work and the effort to make your dreams come true? The sun going through your fourth house can be spotlighting any themes around your insecurities, your desire to keep yourself safe. Um, yeah, what did you learn from your family about your ability to achieve or your goals or your self-worth or things like that? Self-worth could be getting a little nudge with Chiron in your second house in the sign of Taurus. There is so much changing energy. This could be a this could be a really a big thing, but that full moon happened before the month starts, and now it's shedding its light on your like your legacy. What mountains do you want to climb emotionally? Did you get like some real insights around your work with this full moon in Capricorn, and what needs to be released? And how can you, if you need to pick yourself up and dust yourself off, have the understanding, the courage, the confidence with Jupiter now is making a trine with your Aries ascendant and any Aries planets versus the square it was making. So if you've been putting in some effort, you may start seeing some more ease and flow and getting really innovative ideas with Mars meeting Uranus, your chart ruler meeting Uranus in the third house. Now you can also just lose your temper and have a lot of kabooms, but I think this could be a really exciting time for you.
I love that, Celeste. There's certainly a mix of energies here for you, Aries rising. I love that point, Celeste, talking about we've got the greater benefic. It's going to stop making its way through your whole sign. Fifth house, this is the fun house. This is the house of joy. You have Venus there for a time, and then Sun is going to highlight the whole sign, fifth house as well. So it's going to ultimately make nice connections with the ascendant. So you might have a bit of a spring in your step because your Mars, your chart ruler, has moved now out of its detriment. Yes, it's going to meet up with Uranus, so maybe watch out for some unpredictability, especially around your local environment. I would just be cautious about speeding in your local town. Maybe it's the local sheriff that gets a hold of you. So be careful with that Mars and Uranus in the third house. But in general, I love that fifth house activity. If you have children, this is going to be a wonderful time. And Jupiter's going to have a year long stay there to have wonderful creative games. If you're sports minded, this is a great time to pick up a tennis racket, or we've got Pluto in the 11th as well, so maybe you're looking at group games. So I think tap into that fifth house. I think that's going to bring a lot of joy, and especially with the two benefics there, that's going to be nice. Because to Celeste's point, yes, we had a wonderfully exalted Jupiter in Cancer, but it was in the angular fourth house, squaring your ascendant. So at times you might have been feeling over the last year things maybe in the home life are just getting a little bit out of hand. So I think with this Jupiter moving on, you're going to make some nice connections. Now, the only word of caution here is we're going to have Saturn in your whole sign first house, and that's going to station to go retrograde. So if you've got rising degrees around the 14 mark, even from 8 to 14, pay attention to that Saturn. That might dampen your spirits to a certain degree. But when we have these four outer planet connections with the Neptune, the Pluto, and the Uranus, this is going to highlight the third, the first, and the 11th houses. So pay attention to what's going on in those realms of life. If it's people in your local community with community groups, how you're presenting yourself, these might be some of the themes that come up for you for a very energetic July coming around.
Mhm.
Wonderful. Okay. into our Taurus rising friends. Celeste, your thoughts?
Yeah, so Taurus rising, what have you been noticing since Chiron went into Taurus? Even if you have a much later degree ascendant, you may notice something about your desires for security. Is there a concern about, literally about resources? What can you do to, like, for myself as a Taurus with those four earthquakes? I was reviewing my earthquake plan yesterday. So, yeah, things like that you could be thinking about. And now Jupiter's gone into your fourth house, expansion in the family home and your most private self. Are you having fun? Are you having people over to celebrate or have some parties at your house? I think this is a wonderful opportunity for that. And maybe, with Pluto in your 10th house, where maybe you're making some big transformative changes in your work life, um, that some benefactor from outside of yourself comes in and helps you a bit with um, with your work or something like that could be possible. Or maybe you're just had enough of work and you're thinking about, I want to expand my joy in the personal home realm and you're taking a bit of a break. There is some kind of tension between those two areas of your life with that opposition. Yeah. Maybe you're like, you're ready to tell somebody to take this job and shove it, and you're ready to make some seismic changes around your income with the Mars Uranus meeting in your second house, or like really ready to launch something new. Could be something that you're experiencing. The sun is lighting up your third house of how you think, speak. So pay attention to what's coming to your conscious attention. And with the full moon in your ninth house, there can be real themes about coming face to face with your big philosophies, and they may have had some kind of changes. This could be a very introspective time with Mercury retrograde for you. And can you, like, stop playing small is what I get with that. Stop playing small, Taurus, because the North Node is coming to your 10th house. Do you want to start a community? Are you involved in some groups or organizations? Yeah, think about that, how you want to increase your impact in your career calling reputation zone.
I think that's such wonderful advice because I was picking up on that too. And I think for you, Taurus Rising, if work has been cumbersome lately, then I would say practicing self care is going to be important for you this month. Chiron is dipping its toes into your whole sign first house. Chiron's going to be there till about September and then work its way back because we've got some heavy career houses working here. To Celeste point, we've got that Pluto, which is a big story over the next 20 years or so. But you've also got, to Celeste point again, the Sun highlighting the third house, Mercury moving its way back retrograde for the third house. Your chart ruler, when it goes into Virgo, is ruling the sixth house. So you might have issues with maybe so many emails you have to catch up with, communications. Maybe there's maybe some power struggles with authority figures, maybe a boss of some kind. So to Celeste's point, don't be a shrieking violet. Voice your opinions of what needs to happen moving ahead, because this might tie into the financial picture with the Mars conjunction to Uranus in the whole sign second house. And we've got a lot of planets here as well below the horizon. So this is quite a private time for you in terms of the transits. Of course, you've got to look at your own natal chart for more information, but we've got the Greater Benefic. We'll start moving through your whole sign fourth house. Now, as we know, when any planet moves into an angular house, it's usually going to be quite loud. Now, hopefully for you with the Greater Benefic, maybe you're thinking about a house project that expands the home, maybe a conservatory. So that might be something to think about. You've got your chart rule in there for a little bit of time before it goes into the whole sign fifth house. Now, even though your chart ruler is going to lose a little bit of dignity by going into Virgo, I don't mind that Venus going into the whole sign fifth house because it's just a house of fun and it's going to make a nice connection with your ascendant. So for you, Taurus Rising, I'm not too concerned about that Venus picture, even if it does move when it does move over the south node as well. But Yeah, I think for me, just practice a little bit self care. If life is getting a bit cumbersome, try and maybe take a couple of days off to recuperate at this moment in time.
I love that. Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay, into our Gemini rising friends. Celeste, your thoughts?
Oh, Gemini Rising. This is such a big time for you. If you weren't aware about what Uranus in your sign and your first house meant for you, you may get some real wake up calls when Mars meets Uranus. Hopefully, it stimulates you in a positive way to make some big seismic changes. This could be someone quitting smoking, could be something that you decide to do in order to improve your health or like some big change like that. I said smoking because of Mars in Gemini. You hold the cigarette with your hand. Yeah. Be very mindful about your physical safety with this transit in effect, because when Mars enters your ascendant, it can be exciting, energy increases, but it also can be like little injuries and stuff. So, be careful, especially driving is what comes to me for you. Yeah. And some Geminis may be feeling a lot of notice if you're having a lot of mental agitation. What can you do to calm your anxious mind? Do you need to go to yoga or Pilates or start a meditation practice? This is giving you putting you on notice about your vitality and that there's something that you may want to address immediately during the Mercury retrograde. Your chart ruler is retrograde in your second house, of income, values, all these talents. So there may be some big reviews with that at this time. The North Node is getting ready to leave your 10th house. So if there's been this is a great time to think about what have you grown, achieved, amplified in your career zone over the last 18 months. So you may be thinking about that. Do you need more education for any reason with the North Node going into your ninth house? What is that about? Education, long distance travel, maybe just your philosophies are going to be in focus for yourself. Yeah, your thinking is going to be really coming into your conscious attention, and it may require you to really deal with some things if you're feeling a lot of nervous agitation. Yeah, what groups with Saturn and Neptune in the house of groups and organizations and friends? Maybe you're realizing when Mars ruling that, when Mars comes to Uranus, there could be some you recognizing I'm no longer aligned with that anymore, and I'm going to make some changes. But yeah, and maybe you have the confidence to speak up with Jupiter in your third house.
I think that's
And
such wonderful advice, Celeste, especially talking about for some of you Gemini risings. Of course, you've got to look at your own natal charts for more specifics, but that element of agitation. We've got a couple of signatures here. Not only have we got the Mars conjunct Uranus coming up in your whole sign first house. First of all, I would say if you have early degrees of Gemini rising, just be extra cautious about, maybe using sharp objects in the kitchen or you're out on the road. Jupiter's highlighting the third house. Just be extra careful in terms of everything that applies to your body. Mars also rules your sixth sign, whole sign house as well. So just keep that in mind. But to Celeste's point, not only do we have these two can be troublesome planets, the Mars and the Uranus, in an angular sign in your first house, we have your chart ruler turning retrograde, going back through the second house. So there might be an element of just pulling yourself back a little bit if life is getting a bit cumbersome. Maybe you're feeling, I wouldn't say drained, but maybe need to reassess certain parts of your life. And this could be a financial picture. Earlier on, you would have had the full moon highlighting the whole sign eighth house. You've got the sun highlighting the second house, whole sign, and Mercury going back through the second house. So there might just be an element of just going back over the finances. Where do I need to maybe cut out some excessive spending, possibly? Or where can I start to budget? Because this Mercury also rules your fourth house, which is at the tail end of the south node. So this might have to tie in with the family budget, something along those lines. So certainly be mindful of that. But I do love the greater benefic. It's going to move into your whole sign third house. This just might be more joy in the local community. Maybe you're 4th of July, you're being having a good time with your siblings and you're darting around to different parties, but just be careful for overspeeding at this point in time. And to Celeste's point, yes, we're going to have the shift of the North Node going into your whole sign ninth house. So this might bring up topics of long distance traveling. If you're a student at Kepler, it's going to highlight all of these ninth house topics of higher philosophies, maybe astrology to a certain degree. Pluto is going to be a big story there for a long time. So for you, Gemini Rising, it's a mixed bag. Of course, we've got that Saturn station to go retrograde in the whole sign 11th house. I love Celeste's advice of, who is your group? Who is your tribe? Who are your people in these group settings? Might be a long story of reworking those structures. And especially with Neptune as there as well, the picture might not always be clear, especially with that Neptune about to go retrograde too. So just keep that in mind as you're going through this month and beyond at this point.
Hmm.
Wonderful. Okay, into our Cancer rising. Friends, Celeste, your thoughts?
Yes, I'm a Cancer rising. So, yes, I hope Jupiter brought you some expansion and abundance while it did its transit. This is a great time to really be thinking about over the last year, all of the Jupiterian things that you dealt with, the truth coming to light, um, whatever, you growing in many different ways. How were you educated, invested in, and what benefactors came into your life? And what do you need now to do to improve your vitality? Could be something you're thinking about. Jupiter makes everything bigger. So if it has made you bigger, maybe this time is giving you some insights into how you want to get yourself moving and motivated in order to prove your vitality. Jupiter going through your second house. If you put in some work, you may start seeing the bonus of and like literally hitting your bank account, either your bank account or if you've invested in yourself, improvement in your talents and things like that could be what you're experiencing at this time. Mercury retrograde going through your first house. If you have an ascendant at 26, right there, a degree on either side, or 16 Cancer, a degree on either side, really pay attention to what is going on because there's going to be a story for you. Watch your emotions. You may really get some insights into why they call Cancer shadows moodiness or self-pity. So notice if you kept yourself pitying yourself. Hopefully not. But Jupiter is trining your midheaven, or it's going to. It gets all the way to 27 degrees before it goes retrograde. So from your second house, trining your midheaven at some point, if you have an Aries midheaven, but you're anything in your 10th house, yeah, this could be a great for your career. So use this energy well. Absolutely. Now, with the South Node coming to meet Jupiter, there may need to be a release of something in addition to the gains. So pay attention to that. Late November, Jupiter meets the South Node. So that's like an emptying out, but we could talk about that later. But yeah, with Saturn and Neptune in your 10th house, what is going on with that? Are you like, because Saturn coming to your midheaven, if you have an Aries midheaven, is a pinnacle of your career where you have reached the mountaintop. If you've been putting in the work, you could be harvesting all kinds of stuff. Now, it also could be a lot of pressure and stress on you because there's a lot on your plate, but hopefully it's bringing some abundance for you. Pay attention to your dream life with Mars and Uranus in that 12th house. What is going on when you're sleeping? You may be getting messages that you need to pay attention to. And at that full moon in Capricorn, what came up between you and the important other in your life? If you have a spouse, a best friend type, a business partner, or an open enemy who you got into a conflict with. Yeah, what's going on with that? You versus the other. Relationships are mirrors. What did it say to you? Mhm.
I love that, Celeste, and I'm loving a lot of the energy for you, Cancer Risings. Have you mentioned, have you felt buoyant over the last year with an exalted Jupiter in the first house? Have you been more seen? This is your season, it's Cancer season. We've got the Sun highlighting the first house. We've got Mercury. Yes, it's going to go retrograde, but this is about what's on your mind. What do you have to say? What do you need to tell the collective? And I think from this, if you've taken advantage of that Jupiter exalted in the first house, as it moves for a year stay in the whole sign second house, how are you getting advantages from being seen that there's a financial reward for that? Is an expansion of those maybe income revenue streams where you've put yourself out there. I know with Cancer Rising, it's an inward polarity, so it's sometimes a little bit more cautious. It's the crab and the shell. But have you put yourself out there, and are you going to reap the rewards for all the hard work you've been doing? Jupiter rules your sixth house as well, so you've probably been putting a lot of work into whatever you've been doing in career, and this is the time for you, if you've taken advantage of that, to reap those rewards. Are you an entrepreneur? Have you put yourself out there? Are you about to reap these rewards over the next year? I think some of this energy is beautiful. We've got Jupiter ruling the ninth house as well, so maybe that is connected to higher education. Maybe you're a tutor, or maybe you're an astrologer. All of these points coming in because we've had the North Node highlighting the ninth house. And then we go back to the Saturn and Neptune. So, Saturn, what structures have you put in place? This is a high point above your chart. We're elevated here. Are you maybe seen now as an authority? I know Saturn is going to station retrograde. Maybe there's certain tweaks you need to make in your career. You might need to move things around a little bit. And the only downside with that Saturn is depending on what your ascendant degree is, especially if it's around between like 8 and 14 degrees. Just watch out for that Saturn. It might be a bit of a pain in the arse, but hopefully not too restrictive at that point because it's angular. And of course, your first house is angular as well. And to Celeste's point, we've got Saturn ruling the seventh house. Saturn, have you been making commitments in that area of life? Not only it doesn't have to be relationship wise, it could be platonic, it could be business relationships. Is that something you're making commitments or you're revising commitments? Some of these issues might pop up for you as you go through. But all in all, I love a lot of this energy for you, Cancer Rising. And hopefully, if you've taken advantage of that Jupiter, then I hope you reap those rewards.
Yes, it has been wonderful. I can attest for myself. Although it was also very emotional at times. There was loss involved. My little doggy died when Jupiter was in Cancer.
Oh,
But
I'm
with
so
the
sorry to hear.
Jupiter Venus conjunction, I unexpectedly won $1,000 for some work a contest. I didn't
What?
even know I was going to have a financial benefit. I was like, Jupiter Venus conjunction brought it for me. I will say that. Yeah.
I love that. I love how literal astrology can be.
And my partner and I, we moved in together. So it has been so literal in every way. It's
Wow.
unbelievable.
And that's a
Yeah.
great point as well, because the North Node is ultimately going to go into the whole sign eighth house. So might be issues or things you have to think about in terms of shared resources. That might be another picture that pulls up if you've made those commitments with Saturn ruling the seventh. Of course, earlier on before this, you obviously had the full moon there, highlighting the whole sign seventh house. So, yeah, a great time to be thinking about all. I know people get scared about Saturn, and especially a Saturn not in great shape. But the thing with Saturn, and Marcus Pratchett says it very well, is the two malefics you pay up front. So Mars, you pay up front if you want to go to the gym. You might not want to, but you do it, you get the reward. Saturn, you have to do the hard work, like doing a Kepler diploma. It's hard work, but Saturn will give you those rewards as long as you do the work. So that's the beauty of Saturn, I think.
Yes, it is. And I have Saturn on my sun, so I know all about Saturn, and I have had to make it my friend because ah, it's just a natural thing. So yeah, it can be tough. Saturn can be tough, but you put the effort in and you really feel like, oh my God, that hard work paid off. But for Cancer risings, hopefully you will take some time to relax and slow down during this Mercury retrograde because you may really, although Jupiter's been great, you may be exhausted from the pressures from Saturn.
Absolutely. And for all the hard work you've all been doing, you definitely deserve a break.
Yeah, and Jupiter has not been great for everyone, so I should promote Jupiter
Sure,
too much, but it can bring it when it brings it.
absolutely.
Leo. Oh my God, Leo. Yes, you have been going through it the last several years with Pluto opposite Leo. I mean, it's just a time where egos are getting checked. But Jupiter is coming into your sign, so there can be some growth and abundance coming to you. Really important to dot your I's and cross your T's because Mercury is retrograde as Jupiter enters Leo. So if you don't have all of the details together, there can be delays or conflicts coming up. But Jupiter going into your first house should bring you some kind of increased feelings of vitality or confidence or joy. Now, the South Node's going into Leo as well. So really recommend you pay attention to your vitality. And especially around the eclipses. August 12th is the solar eclipse in Leo. And Leo rules the heart and the back, the upper back. So pay attention. Maybe this can be a great time for you to do some strengthening of those areas through cardiovascular training or whatever you want to do. Yeah, the sun is spotlighting your 12th house, alerting you to any self-undoing. Maybe a good time to really just get some extra rest in preparation for the sun coming into your first house, lighting up your ascendant, your identity. With Jupiter there, you could be in the spotlight. What do you want to educate yourself from or do you want to take any classes or teach something with Jupiter in a trine with Saturn in your ninth house? Um, could be something that comes up. If you have long distance travel planned, just be prepared for a little potentially a little delays or slowness, or maybe this is just about going slow at it. Yeah. And what else would I say about this? Oh, Mars, Uranus in the 11th will be really interesting for you. Are you energized, ready to get a group organized to do something innovative, leading a protest or leading a revolution of your own? Yeah, in your friend group area. And with Chiron in your career sector, that could be interesting. There could be, depending on the degrees of, and if that's where your midheaven is, yeah, notice if notice your feelings about security around your work and your worth in the career field.
Absolutely great, great advice. And Leo rising, not so much in the first half of the month, but eventually it's coming up to your season, and then it's Leo rising time. We're going to have later in the month the sun moving into your whole sign first house. It's going to be your season, especially as we get deeper into August. Jupiter, have you been waiting for this? I think it's going to be such a boon. I mean, as we always say, there's pros and cons with even with the greater benefic, but hopefully for you, to Celeste's point, is this going to be a rush of energy as it dances into your first house? Especially if you've got early degrees of Leo rising. Is this going to feel like a rush of energy that you may have been craving for quite some time? Now, the first half of the month, yes, we've got the sun highlight in the 12th house. Mercury's going to go retrograde. So it's not quite your season yet. I'd probably take this time for a bit of recuperation before you really step into the limelight. Go for a nice spa day or go on a retreat or meditate. And then to Celeste's point earlier on, maybe some dream work you have to work through, because get ready, because when that sun comes through and Jupiter's there as well, especially if you're early degrees of Leo rising, then it's showtime for you at this moment in time. Now, I think as this is highlighting the first house, the only shadow side of that is Jupiter. Just be careful of the waistline. Sometimes we can overdo it. So Jupiter likes to expand, hopefully not too much of the waistline. But that's not to say don't enjoy yourself. I think that's the bottom line for you, Leo rising. So much energy. It's quite interesting. To Celeste's point, we're going to have the South Node going through the first, but we're going to have a Jupiter there as well. So it might be a push and pull between feeling exuberant and then feeling like, wow, I maybe overdid this week or this month. And so just be careful with that, mitigating some of those factors. Jupiter rules the fifth house, so you might find, there's some great times for creative enjoyment. And Saturn, I'm sure for many of you, I know many Leo rising friends were so happy when Saturn got out of the whole sign eighth house with the financial picture, and of course with the the south node getting out of the second house. Maybe for some of you, maybe that financial picture is clearing up a little bit. Just pay attention to that. Although, Mercury does rule the second house, it's going to go retrograde, but Jupiter does rule the eighth house. So I think for some of you, if the financial picture has been rough over the last couple of years, that might start to ease up. Now, Saturn, of course, it's the greater malefic. It's going through your whole sign ninth house. Yes, on the shadow side, there might be some restrictions if you're looking for long distance travel and maybe something comes back and then you're denied a visa. We've talked about this in the World Cup where so many people were just denied by going overseas. But also, on the positive side, anything with Saturn, if you put the hard work in, say you're a Kepler student, this is a great time to hone in on your discipline, your skills in some of your subjects. Saturn's going to go retrograde, so maybe revising some of the structures in those areas of life. And of course, Saturn is going to make easy trines with your ascendant at whatever degree that is. So yeah, definitely keep that in mind. To Celeste's point, we've got the Mars Uranus conjunction. This is a wild card. 11th house, there could be, these are going to be over many years with Uranus there as well, but there might be changes in your community groups. Maybe you've fallen out with certain members of the community and you're looking for new energizing way to connect with others and groups. So this might be a time where just expect the unexpected. I know it's a cliche at this point, but expect the unexpected. And I think lastly, as the North Node goes into Aquarius and Pluto is going to be there for such a long time, there might be some issues coming up in terms of relationships that need your attention, especially with Saturn ruling the seventh house, turning retrograde. If there's any business partnerships that need a bit of revision, or your romantic partners, that might be an issue that pops up for you this month. So just be mindful of that. Of course, always look at your own natal chart for more specifics. But for you, I'm liking some of this energy, Celeste, for you, Leo Rising.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. I
wonderful.
hope Leo's that yeah, you enjoy Jupiter coming into your first house.
Absolutely wonderful. Okay, into our Virgo Rising friends. Celeste, your thoughts?
Virgo rising, you are almost done. This last year and a half. Oh my God. The South Node going into Virgo, I'm sure was a lot for a lot of Virgos where the lack of order may have driven you crazy. And one of the things that happened when the South Node entered Virgo, the North Node was conjunct Neptune. So it was this super amplification of confusion or a fantasy or something going on that was going on that made it even more intense than other South Node through Virgo transits. But congratulations, you're almost done. July 26th is coming. Maybe you could have a little celebratory retreat with Jupiter going into your 12th house where you get out into the forest or whatever and bathe, forest bathing. That's what I'm getting for you. Anyway, the sun is going through your 11th house of hopes and dreams. And if you have been doing something intense about changing your career with Uranus in your 10th house, that, maybe you get a spotlight, some new seeding of something new around your hopes and dreams when there's that new moon in Cancer on the 21st of at 21 degrees. I forget the date. Anyway, yeah. And that full moon may really show you some things about where the sun in the Capricorn full moon about self-expression in your fifth house is what I'm getting for that. Like, can you let your light shine and not hold yourself back with constantly editing yourself or like some kind of self-criticism? So I don't know. I think this is just the fact that the South Node is leaving your first house is something to just celebrate, celebrate, celebrate potentially. And then the full moon in Aquarius will be in your sixth house. So Yeah, we've got, yeah, there can be great things to, I'm getting like doing some enjoyment and solitude. You're the hermit. So you may get some benefits from hermiting, and you may make some big changes around your work career or get energized with Mars and Uranus there. Don't unexpectedly tell your boss to take this job and shove it if you haven't thought it out.
I love that, Celeste, and I could not agree more. I'm so happy for you, Virgo Risings. You finally, after about 18 months, are going to get that South Node out of the first house. So hopefully, there's that lessening of that draining quality to Celeste's point. I know with many Virgo Risings, you are quite discerning and living in a world where there seems to be no rules anymore, or structure, or order. It might be has been a very cumbersome time for you. So hopefully this maybe you've learned things from that South Node coming through the first house, especially even right now if you've got early degrees of Virgo rising. But hopefully that's a weight or a drainingness that is going to be lifted for you. I'm really loving that. That's not to say things might get buoyant straight away. We're going to have your chart ruler turn in retrograde, and so it might not be, a snap of a finger where you're feeling buoyant automatically. It might take a bit of time before you build up speed, but so very happy for you with the South Node getting away from that, especially if you have other Virgo placements there. Again, this is not a time to be a shrieking violet, as we'll see with this chart. The preponderance of planets are above the horizon, so whether you're like it or not, there's a lot of visible transits going through your chart. To Celeste's point, it might be tempting with the Mars Uranus conjunction to tell the boss to shove it where the sun doesn't shine, but maybe you'll be a bit careful about that. But you could be at this point, if you've been feeling drained over the last couple of years, maybe you decide to yourself with Uranus, it's going to have a long stay in your whole sign 10th house. When Mars meets up there, and especially if your midheaven is around those early degrees of Gemini, then maybe you get to a point where you say to yourself, I've put so much effort into what I've been doing. Is this worth my time anymore? And maybe you do go on a different path. Then maybe you want to be more of an entrepreneur, whatever that might be for you. There's going to be a lot of upheavals for quite a while in that area of life. What else have we got going on? Yeah, when the full moon came around, we're highlighting the fifth house, and as we get to the Aquarius nature, yeah, some of the work issues might tie up. We've got Pluto with the best part of 20 years in your whole sign sixth house. So again, paying attention to many themes of the sixth house, your health, your vitality, your work life. If you're a subordinate, there might be some issues there. But yeah, keep an eye out for those issues. But the sun, of course, is highlighting the whole sign 11th house. So this is going to highlight your community, friend groups. And this is where I think you'll get support. Where if you've got a great sense of community, or if you're really pushing forward, or a sense of leadership, this is a great month to solidify those points. The only downside might be that greater malefic Saturn station to go retrograde. We've got Neptune there in the whole sign eighth house as well. So we could be looking at a financial picture, because what compounds this is Venus is, yes, it's going to go through your whole sign first house, but it's going to gain a little bit of being a little bit more undignified, and it rules the second house. So just keep an eye. Usually with you Virgo risings, you're quite discerning, but in terms of shared resources or finances, maybe that's an issue that it rears its head, especially if you're thinking about a career change. So think about all these connections and what it's doing in your own natal chart as well for you at this time. Wonderful. Okay,
Fantastic.
into our Libra rising friends. Celeste, your thoughts?
Yeah, Libra Rising. The sun is transiting your 10th house as we start the month, spotlighting your career. And what changes do you want to make? Be very mindful about double checking all communications, making sure you're at the meetings at the right time and that sort of thing, because Mercury is retrograde in your 10th house of career. And the 10th house is also the mother. So check in on mom, see how she's doing, if she's still with us, or say hello to your heavenly mother. Could be something that you do. And at that full moon that's shedding the light, there may be big things around family, ancestry coming up with the full moon in Capricorn. Jupiter is going through your 11th house. Jupiter is in the house of its joy, groups, organizations. Maybe someone's ready to invest in you in some way. And if you need a mentor, this is a great time to get one for yourself. Yeah, think about that. Now, Saturn and Neptune are angular in your seventh. So there's likely some stuff coming up around your relationships where you're getting clarity. Maybe you have to take up more of the weight in the relationship. Maybe there's themes of distance or separation or disillusionment. And maybe you want to meet these head on with Chiron, the wounded healer, in your eighth, that perhaps therapy or couples therapy could be, or singles there, like you could just therapize yourself with someone, could be really helpful. Maybe coming for an astrology reading could be really helpful for you to dive into the cave as that transit is starting. Yeah. And yeah, those are the big things. And then, yeah, the sun meeting Jupiter in your 11th house. Pay attention to what's going on. That can be a great day around then. You ask the king for a favor, the boss or the queen or whatever, and that could be when you get yourself a mentor or something. Yeah, or find the
Celeste,
right
I want to
therapist.
say wonderful advice because as a Libra rising, I have not called my mother in a couple of weeks and I've been meaning to. So this is the time that I need to get on the phone and say hello, mum. Sorry. Great, spot on. Great advice. Because it has. I'm speaking for myself as a Libra rising, got a lot of activity above the horizon. I've been incredibly busy, whether you're talking about career, work life. Of course, the North Node has been going through the whole sign sixth house. So with this Mercury retrograde, I'm actually taking the first week or two off of July just to recuperate. There might be things you have to go over in terms of career, but as this chart ruler of ours goes, loses a bit of dignity, goes into the whole sign 12th house and meets up with the South Node, it might just be a time of maybe just relaxed for a couple of weeks. Take the foot off the gas and go and recuperate if you need to meditate or if because my diet hasn't been great so far because I've been so busy recently. I've just been watching the World Cup, drinking beer, eating pizza. I need to knock that on the head and get back to a bit more self-care. So as our chart roller goes through the 12th house, maybe it's a time to recuperate a little bit because ultimately when that Venus moves along, we're going to go into our first house and in the home sign, which might be a nice boon. But this moment in time, maybe just, take care of yourself and relax because to Celeste's point, we've got the larger story of Saturn, Neptune. Anytime a planet is angular, it's going to be quite loud. To Celeste's point, this is on our area of life of relationships. Now, just being careful with Saturn stationing to go retrograde. Maybe there's some issues with the partners that need to be restructured. Neptune, sometimes with this Neptune, if you're free and single, this is going to be a long picture over many years. But sometimes with Neptune, you might get this element of rose tinted glasses. So if you are free and single, just be mindful of who you're meeting out on dates, especially with Pluto in the fifth, making sure you're not getting carried away with yourself and seeing not being, maybe get friends, your 11th house, maybe get group advice for some of those relationship issues because that is going to be a boon. We've had this wonderfully exalted Jupiter in our 10th house. For many of us, including myself, this has been a boon in terms of social status and career wise. Now we're shifting to the 11th house, community groups. If you're an astrologer, maybe get involved with. You've got events coming up, and this is a great time to use that greater benefic to expand those areas of your life, and that's where you'll get a lot of joy, especially over the next year as we come
Wow.
up. Absolutely wonderful. Fantastic. Okay, I need to call my mother. That's the main thing there.
Yes. Call Bob.
Call mum. That is the key line for us there. If she's still around, of course, not for everybody.
Yeah. Well, you could
Okay.
still talk to your mom even if she's not on this earth.
That's
Yeah.
that I like that. Wonderful. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay,
hmm
into our Scorpio rising friends. Celeste, your thoughts?
Yeah. Jupiter in your 10th house. How are you growing your career? Or do you want freedom from something in your career? your status, your reputation. This can be a nice that harvest after years of work. Some things can start to come into alignment for you. At least I hope so. And with Saturn and Neptune in your sixth house, hopefully that Saturn in the sixth, the that could be a tough transit, but because the sixth house, the house of burdens, and uh, it can be a lot. But hopefully the work you put in there into the money work you do for your money you make is going to bear some fruit with Jupiter going through your 10th house. The sun is spotlighting your ninth house of long distance travel, your philosophies, higher education, these sorts of things with Mercury retrograde. Yeah, pay attention. Get to the airport early if you're traveling. Or it could be, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that shows up. But yeah, there may be some real breakthrough moments that you realize in some of your higher thinking that comes to your mind. And it may have to do with relationships with Chiron going, has started the journey through your seventh house, where there can be like a little bit of a wounding coming in from outside of yourself, but hopefully, ultimately, it brings some healing. Sometimes Chiron wounds can be really sharp, but ooh, like it's almost as bad as Pluto. But or as intense, I shouldn't say bad, intense as Pluto, but there really is the opportunity to do some deep healing. And the Magi astrologers call Chiron the asteroid of marriage. So who knows, if you're single, you might meet someone really serious during this transit, which or you're getting married with Jupiter in the 10th, changing your reputation. Um, Pay attention with Mars, your chart ruler, going through your eighth house of deep psychological processes. There, some themes can really come up around your thinking as and awakening to you with Mars Uranus there about themes around intimacy or betrayal, surveillance, like how your thought process is. Are you like really suspicious of your partner or something like that? And is it justified? And maybe there can be some healing related to that. Yeah.
I love that advice, Celeste, because you're tying in two really important points here. Because your chart ruler has been in its detriment, angular in the seventh house. So maybe if there has been some conflict, maybe it is with a romantic partner, or it could be the marriage, it could be business relationships. If things have been quite contentious, it's also the house of open enemies. Then maybe as that Mars moves out and that Chiron comes in, it's kind of like, okay, I've calmed down a bit. How can we maybe talk this through? And maybe to Celeste's point, maybe heal some of those wounds with those one-on-one personal relationships. So if that's been the case for you, then you've got some time with this Chiron to maybe work through those issues. So I really think that's an important point that Celeste is saying. And now as your chart ruler moves through the whole sign eighth house, it's going to meet up with Uranus. So here in the eighth house of shared resources. So again, this can tie in the partner, but there's so many different themes with the eighth house. Just pay attention to what might come up. But I think what's going to be nice, we've got the sun highlighting the whole sign ninth house. To Celeste's point, I do like the advice of if you are going on a long distance travel, pay attention with the Mercury going retrograde that you're crossing your T's, dotting your I's, and just double checking your itinerary, especially if you're really far from home at this point in time. Or it could be that you're not moving very far anyway, and maybe you're in a course of study, say at Kepler College. It's always a great time with Mercury retrograde to go back over material, coursework, and if you are at Kepler College, for example, you can go over the material maybe you've done in the previous semester. So this is a great time for highlighting those ninth house themes. And what I do love here is that for the best part of a year, you got Jupiter coming into your angular 10th house. So hopefully for you as a greater benefic, if you've got early degrees, for example, of Leo for the midheaven, then maybe this is a time where you're seeing more or you're expanding the realms of career or you're social status is being a boon in some way. We've got the other great lesser benefic there as well for a time before she goes into Virgo. So yeah, keep those things in mind. I think they're going to be quite important. Of course, with the outer planets, we've got the 4 degrees of the Pluto, the Neptune, and the Uranus. This is going to highlight the fourth, the sixth, and the eighth houses. So pay attention to some of those themes there. Pluto, I mean, this is going to be a long story for you, best part of 20 years. Angular in the fourth house. Maybe there's going to be transformation or a lot of upheavals to a certain degree with the connection with Uranus in that realm of life. So just pay attention to that as you go through. But I'll definitely tap into that Jupiter. Very, very high in your chart. So take advantage of hopefully some of the benefits that come from that. Wonderful. Okay, into our Sagittarius rising friends. Celeste, your thoughts?
Yeah, Sagittarius rising. Really pay attention to what's going on as Mars goes into the sign of Gemini in your seventh house. This can be awakenings related to your relationships. Mars rules the fifth house. Maybe you and your partner are getting busy, 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 busy in the bedroom. This could be really nice and exciting, but also, um, yeah, that also rules your 12th house of secrets, like some things may be coming to your conscious attention. With Mercury going retrograde, Sagittarius, I love you, but there can be foot in the mouth disease. So be mindful, especially what's going on that first week and what you're saying and communicating to your partners. Some people may want freedom from their relationships, or there may be a little bit of separation between you. Maybe they're just going off on a girls trip or boys trip or whatever trip, could be coming up. Yeah, that's something to be aware of. And you may really feel like you're at a crossroads between your work and your home. Like this could be your partner saying with the Mars square the nodes that you're spending so much time out of the house, I need your help at home or something like that. And it could be a crossroads where how you handle it could have big implications now. Or maybe you're telling your partner, or they're telling you like something about going back for more education with Jupiter, your chart ruler, in the ninth house, reconsidering your big philosophies. What are you learning, educating yourself about? What do you want to broadcast? Is there a message you want to share? This could be a time for you to really feel like, feel like connected to yourself. Great. Potentially with the Jupiter trining your chart ruler and a fire sign trining your ascendant. So hopefully that'll help increase your confidence. With that. The sun shining your eighth house. Themes of death, debt, and taxes could be coming to the surface. Shared assets, intimacy. Sometimes Sagittarius can be a shadow is non-committal. And yeah, is there any story about a conversation with your partner about like really connecting deeply that you have to deal with? Um, yeah, that comes up with they just want to hold your hand, maybe.
Wonderful point, Celeste. And
Yeah.
Sagittarius rising, I'm loving this Jupiter in a fellow fire sign. Yes, it's your chart rule and it has been exalted in Cancer, but Jupiter there, from the whole sign perspective, can't see your ascendant. So hopefully for you, to Celeste's point, that Jupiter is ultimately, for the year stay it has, is going to make a nice connection with your ascendant. So hopefully you're feeling more buoyant, a fellow fire sign. Bring that fire back into your life. And this could be in the area of the ninth house where maybe you're looking to start a study at Kepler College, or you're looking to expand your horizons overseas, whatever it might be. This is going to be a great boon and a great area of your life where you can expand those themes. But to Celeste's point, there might be some issues in terms of relationships. We have Mars that's angular at this point, making its conjunction with Uranus. Anytime a planet is angular, usually quite loud. So just be careful. It might not be romantic partnerships or marriages. It could be business relationships. It could be open enemies. So just be mindful of, to Celeste's point before, foot and mouth disease and making sure there's no blowback from maybe some of these open enemies. Uranus is there. Is going to be a big picture for a long time in the whole sign house. There might be some shake-ups in your one-on-one relations. And what's interesting is that Mercury is turning retrograde in the whole sign eighth house, which the sun is also highlighting, and Mercury rules the seventh house. So there might be some conversations around shared resources. Are you managing finances well? This could be a story, especially with Saturn stationing to go retrograde, rule in the second house. You might see some of those financial themes pop up, and it just might be a conversation not only with a partner, could be a business partner. So keep an eye on that as well. But I really like Celeste Point talking about Mars at the bendings and maybe some of that conflict between, what are your responsibilities at home? What are your responsibilities in career? And are you balancing that well? That might be a theme that comes up for you that you really have to think about this month as you go through. But all in all, I'm liking that chart ruler in a fire sign and bringing more fire to you in the skies. Wonderful. Okay, into our Capricorn rising friends. Celeste, your thoughts?
Yes. So Capricorn rising. So Saturn and Neptune are angular, and so I wonder if there's been a big story going on in your home life, or the fourth house is also speaks about the most private self. And with your chart ruler being in the sign of his fall, how is this showing up for you? This is a great time to really pay attention to that and notice, especially if your rising is around 14 degrees, because there's this extended square between your rising sign and your descendant. So, is there pressure, frustration, conflict, separation about between you and an important partner, whether they're a best friend, a lover, a spouse, a business partner, whatever? So, really pay attention to what is revealed to you as Saturn turns retrograde. Maybe your parents are needing a lot of extra help, or maybe they're driving your spouse crazy or something like that. Yeah, there could be these could be the stories that are coming up. And the sun is spotlighting the sun, the attention is on the other. So what's going on with that within you? Yeah. And what's coming up with the full moon that just happened, where you're having awareness of things. Yeah, you're having this full moon in your first house, and this could bring up themes around, ooh, I really want to achieve blah, 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 but I feel hindered or something like that. And then the next full moon in Aquarius across the axis of resources. Um, yeah, I think this is a great time to be introspective. Mercury's going retrograde in your seventh house. Really pay attention to what conversations you're having with important people, because you may be able to reveal, and you may be a great time for you to get therapy as well, with Jupiter going into your eighth house. Um, yeah, really having some growth through exploring the cave, and could be a good time to take a loan potentially with Jupiter in the eighth for you as well. Yeah, and
Wonderful advice, Celeste. And I say this every month. Big hugs to my Capricorn rising friends. I know many of you have been through the ringer for quite some time. Now, this is not every Capricorn rising, of course. You have to look at your own natal chart. But as we've been talking about for these months, we've got your chart ruler in its fall, angular in the fourth house, so it's going to be loud. And of course, Saturn is going to station to go retrograde this month. So the hard work you might be putting into the home life might still need to be revisited, looking at some of those structures. Maybe some of the questions you're asking yourself are you happy in your current location? Or is there something to go along with? It could be Saturn, it could be father, it could be parent issues to Celeste Point. Are you having to look after an elderly family member? Is this taken a lot of energy from you? And I love Celeste point of try and get help from other people, maybe getting it from therapy or whatever the case might be for you, whatever needs to help you out, as we do have the sun highlighting the seventh house. And maybe hopefully you get some support from partners. If you are married, if you're not, then hopefully it's intimate one-on-one relations. And but what is kind of nice is we're going to have Jupiter now in the whole sign eighth house. So If finances have been a bit of a strain, especially with Saturn turning retrograde rule in the second house and Pluto in there, then maybe hopefully this eases up a bit. Maybe it's a partner that gets extra income and then the shared resources look a bit better. Not always the worst time, to Celeste's point, to get a loan with Jupiter going through the whole sign eighth house. Of course, look more deeply at your own chart for more specifics, but maybe you can get some extra support here. But yeah, I always say for Capricorn Rising this moment in time, this doesn't last forever. All of these transits do eventually move on, but certainly keep practicing that self care and get support from your nearest and dearest where you can get it. Because on top of this, we've got Chiron dipping its toes into your whole sign fifth house. So, with all of this going on, it could be tied to the home life, family, it could be children that are needing your attention. So, even if you've got a lot on your plate, try and find those moments in time where you deserve a break. Because I know Capricorn Rising, many of you are very, very hardworking and you deserve support as well, even if you've been that support person for other people at this moment in time. Wonderful.
Yeah, fantastic advice.
Okay, into our Aquarius Rising friends. Celeste, your thoughts?
Yeah, so Aquarius rising, if you're single and ready to mingle, Jupiter going through your seventh house could bring you some new opportunities for growth in relationships, love relationships, but also business relationship, best friend types. But you may have to, something may come up where you really have to recognize like you're learning so much about yourself with Pluto going through Aquarius. And like maybe if um, some of your fixed thought things are coming to your conscious attention or to be recognized, if you have to be a rebel without a cause at times, this could be coming to a head with the Jupiter opposite Pluto that could bring some real recognition to you. Maybe you're being really creative in some way with Mars and Uranus going into your fifth house. So Mars meeting Uranus there. Maybe you want to run a marathon or a sprint or something like that. Like some kind of exercise challenge could be great. Or maybe you're writing something or something's coming up intellectually that is like really making massive innovative changes for you is something that could be going on. Really notice what's happening now that Chiron is in Taurus in your fourth house. What is the wound around family? Potentially is something that could be coming up or around values or resources or things like that. That yeah, really notice what happens when Chiron squares your ascendant and descendant. That can be a big transit. That can be like a wounding, but lead to healing between you and an important other. Hopefully not an open enemy. Hopefully it's so you can heal with um through it. And pay attention to what your mental processes are going through with Saturn in your third house. Yeah, and think about that. Venus is going to be coming to your eighth house, and then the sun is lighting up your eighth house. Really pay attention to, oh, that's not till next month. Never mind. But pay attention to what's going on in those realms as well. The eighth house of the cave and the deep psychological processes. And good time to pay attention to your health as well with Mercury retrograde in the sixth house and rethinking what routines really support you.
Wonderful advice. And for you, Aquarius Rising, like it has been for a long time now, is you've got the preponderance of planets below the horizon. So there's a lot happening in your private realm, whether it's your immediate environment with others, children, home life. But what I do love, starting with the positives, is that Jupiter is going to become angular in your chart. It's highlighting the whole sign seventh house for the best part of a year. So hopefully there's some joy or abundance in this area of life. Maybe you're networking with business one-on-one partners or something is happening with romantic relationships. I think if you are free and single, maybe this is a time over the next year where Jupiter ruling the 11th house, maybe you find somebody within a community group. Maybe you join in a protest together and you meet somebody. It's just, still got the two benefics in there for a moment in time. So that might be an area of positivity for you. But it seems like there's still a lot of work going on. Maybe in the work life, it's the sun's highlighting the whole sign sixth house. Mercury's going to turn retrograde, go back through. So to Celeste's point, not only work themes, it could be thinking about reworking or using that Mercury to use a health plan. So with Mars going through the whole sign fifth house, at least it's out of its detriment in your whole sign fourth house. If there's been any conflict at the home, at least when Mars goes through the whole sign fifth house, it's going to make a nicer connection with your ascendant. So if you're raring to go, it's a good time to maybe join, a sports club, especially with Jupiter ruling the 11th. Get some of that maybe pent up energy out. Might be a good outlet for you. And paying attention to those health themes. Of course, what else have we got going on? What's interesting is the North Node is going to come into your whole sign first house. So hopefully this over time, over the next 18 months, I call the North Node in the first house is you do you energy. North Node, it's going to highlight you, especially if you've got late degrees of Aquarius Rising. It's kind of, okay, if I've done all the hard work, what do I want now? You do you. So that is my advice for you, Aquarius Rising, as we go through the month and beyond through that. Wonderful. Okay, last but certainly not least, into our Pisces Rising friends. Celeste, your thoughts?
Yeah, Pisces rising, you're wrapping up you do you over the last 18 months where the North Node has been in your first house. It's a really great time to sit down and do a review of what has happened. And Mercury's going retrograde through your fifth house. So think about those topics as well. What's happened with children, your joy, vacations, risk taking, self expression. Those are kind of things to think about. Can you pick up a habit, not a habit, a hobby that maybe you had put down at some time with the sun lighting up your fifth house of joy? If you want to date, yeah, this is a great time to think about that as well. Now, Mars is going through your fourth house and meeting Uranus. You may have awakenings about some things that are from your childhood that maybe you get together with a childhood friend and do something fun, but it also can be lots of awareness with Mars Uranus awakenings about some things. Be careful at the home around any kind of trip and fall, or be careful with knives and fires at the home with Mars Uranus meeting there, is what I would say. With Jupiter in the sixth, how are you expanding and your health or benefiting or from your whatever activities you're doing? It's the house of the work we do for the money we make, and Jupiter going through there may not give you actual increases in money, but maybe you're getting increases in work satisfaction, or getting a new employee to help you and take the load off could be something that is happening for you so that you have more free time in that area of your chart. Yes, yes. Mm. And what financial stuff is going on with Saturn and Neptune in your second house? Good time to do a check of your finances. Make sure everything's going okay with Mars ruling your second house. Or maybe you're taking some of your income and there's restriction there because you're investing in your house or something like that, in renovations or something. Yeah, that can be going on.
Wonderful advice. Now, I am kind of sad for you, Pisces Rising, that your chart ruler is going to get out of his exaltation in the fun house. So hopefully, over the last year, you've had some fun there and some creative expressions. But it's not. He's still going to enjoy life. Jupiter, still the greater benefic, is going to go through your whole sign sixth house. This just could expand some of those themes. Maybe there's some work that maybe comes back on your plate because to Celeste's point, there might be an element of a financial picture here. We've got Saturn stationing to go retrograde. We've got Neptune in the second house. We're going to have Venus lose a bit of dignity, but it's going to be angular in your chart in the whole sign seventh house, ruling the eighth house. So connecting those pieces together, just double check that your budget is sound and you're crossing the T's and dotting the I's, because some of that financial picture, not just for this month, might permeate for the next couple of years, especially with Neptune there. Saturn is still going to be there for a long time. So yeah, just be cautious about that, and certainly be cautious about Mars moving into your whole sign fourth house, especially with a conjunction with Uranus. We always know that the planets in an angular house are going to be quite loud, especially if you've got early degrees of Pisces rising. Just pay attention to that, because it's going to be rubbing shoulders against your ascendant. So, to Celeste's point, just be careful maybe around the home with sharp objects, or dealing with, I mean, whether it's 4th of July, fireworks, whatever it might be, is at the home. Just be extra cautious with those connections, especially in the whole sign fourth house. But not all is lost, even though Jupiter's moved off into fixed fire. We've got the Sun highlighting the fifth house. Mercury's going to station to go retrograde back through. Oh no, it's already retrograde, but it's going back through the fifth house. So there's still an element here of highlighting the fun house. So maybe use a couple of weeks if you're on vacation to enjoy yourself with family and friends. We're going to have Venus through the whole sign seventh house as well. But for you, Pisces rising in general, we've got a preponderance of planets below the horizon. So it's for you all about your private life this moment in time. And you have been through the you do you energy to Celeste's point. And hopefully that you've learned quite a deal about yourself as that North Node has gone through Pisces. Absolutely wonderful. Well, Celeste, as always, thank you so much for not only going through the energies of each week in July and all of the rising signs. I love your insights. And we said this before the recording, but I need to put a compilation together further down the line. So, Celeste, what's coming up for you? What would you like to tell folks?
Yes, you can find me at astrologybyceleste.com. I do personal readings, so you can come for a single reading, or if you want to dive deeper, I have packages. I teach, and transits will be coming back in, I think it starts in September. I forgot the date.
Oh,
I just arranged it. Anyway, keep an eye out for the Kepler email, or get on my mailing list and you'll find out where I'm teaching my 5-week transits course. The Celestial Insights podcast is here to help you navigate the week like a boss. And I'm going to be having myself and two of my astro besties are going to be talking about the rest of the year's astrology. If you hear this on time, on June 30th, and you can get the recording if you can't make it live. So check that out. But check out my YouTube. I have a lot of videos that you might find interesting. And I love also threads. I love interacting on threads, and I'm on Instagram as well. I'm on all the socials, but threads, Instagram, and YouTube are my big ones.
I love that. Celeste is everywhere. And the Cancer rising, that wonderful Jupiter growing and growing.
Colin, I need a rest. So I'm
Unity.
slowing down a little bit. For Mercury retrograde, I'm really taking it to heart as a Cancer rising. So, yeah,
You
but
deserve it. It sounds like all the hard work you've been putting in. And I will say with the transits class that those transit class sell out like hotcakes. So when that rolls around again, if you see pop up in the newsletter or on Celeste socials, I do suggest signing up as soon as possible, because they do sell out quite quickly. And what I love about you, Celeste, as well, we've got students who come through in 101, and we ask them in the introduction, oh, how did you get into astrology? And there's been so many people recently saying, I watched Astrology by Celeste on social
ah,
media and stuff at Kepler. So I'm like, that's brilliant.
I love that. That's so wonderful. Ah, that warms my heart.
It's beautiful. It really is. So, Celeste, thank you so much. There was a lot to get through today, and there's so much going on in the skies. It's a wild time to be to be around. And for everybody watching, I'll put all of Celeste's links in the description and comment boxes below, so you can enjoy the popular Instagram lives and everything that Celeste does, because Celeste is everywhere.
Well, thank you so much, Colin. It's always so amazing to talk astrology with you. I love your brilliant insights, and yeah, it's always so much fun.
Wonderful. Thank you. Well, thank you all for watching, and we'll see you again next time. Bye, everyone.
Fantastic.
Awesome. Okay, let me do. Where we go?